Logarithms. What? What'd you do?
It's logarithms.
No, that was an algebra. We could do, maybe we should do a skill drill on logarithms.
No.
Just make sure that we remember how to do them. Okay. Okay. So this section is entitled Experimental Design, but what it's really going to teach you how to do is how to collect data and the different methods to do it. Okay, so that's when they say experimental design, that's what they mean. And if you think about it, if you're going to do a survey, isn't it kind of an experiment? You're like surveying people to find out results. And so there's two things you've got to understand. There's different ways to collect data, and there's different techniques to do that. Okay? So the first thing that we're going to talk about is data collection. Data collection. Okay? There are 4 of them. 2 of them you already know. A census. What's a census again? Survey all the population, right? Okay. So if we do a census, we survey all the population. Now we've talked about it. Surveys are sometimes not practical, right? They're hard to do. They're hard to survey every single person. They're expensive. They're time consuming. But don't get me wrong, there's some surveys that are population surveys that are not that big, okay? Like for instance, I could do a survey of my stat kids. I might say, hey, I'm gonna do a survey of just my statistic kids of those going on to college. Well, there's only like 50 of you, okay? That's not hard to do. That's the entire population of my stat class, right? Now, if I said we're going to do a census of Post Falls High School of those kids going on to college, that's going to be a little bit more work because there's like 1,600 of us, okay? So that would be definitely more time consuming. And I can do it, but it's hard to do, okay? The other type of survey is a sample survey, which we kind of know that already too. It's a subset of a population. Okay, which we've already talked about, very practical, easier to do. We pretty much get the same results as if we surveyed everybody. So, I mean, sample surveys are the way to go. Now for you, when you guys do your project, some of you might draw Boise, Idaho. Well, Boise, Idaho has way more than 10 gas stations. So you would do a sample survey, right? You're only going to survey 10 of them, not all 100 of them, okay? Some of you might draw Bonners Ferry, Idaho. Bonners Ferry, Idaho probably has 3 gas stations, so you would do a census, right? You would do all of them, okay? So see how we kind of think about how, and I'm relating it to your project as we do it, okay? Next one, a simulation. Here is why we do a simulation. A simulation is the use of math models to reproduce a condition. So it's the use of math/models to reproduce a condition. Here is why you would do a simulation. If death or serious injury could happen. Okay? I mean, I'm not going to survey somebody if it could possibly kill them. Okay? Like, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to go to a retirement home and say, hey, We're kind of we want to do a survey of how well, a 70-year-old guy can go on a treadmill for how long. We want to see if they can go for 20 minutes. That could seriously hurt them, or it could kill them. So we would probably do a simulation. So anytime, if you're looking at it like, wait a minute, this sounds like kind of fishy, we're going to do this as a simulation, not as a survey or a sample. Okay? Last one is an experiment. An experiment, if I were to define it, is a treatment applied to a certain population. This is medical. Okay? So, think about it. Drug companies do this all the time. They got to test their medicine, right? They're not going to make a pill and they say, oh, let's see if it works, They're going to run it through people, and they're going to run experiments to see how it affects people. What is a fake pill called? A placebo. So a lot of times what they'll do is they'll survey 100 people. They'll give 50 people the actual medicine. They'll give 50 people the placebo, which has no medicine in it, and then they'll just see if there's a difference between the two people after a month or after 2 months. And so they're running an experiment. Okay? They find out, kind of weirdly, that when people take placebos, they actually feel better. They actually feel like, oh, the medicine's working, and then they tell them, hey, there was no medicine in that. A lot of big thing is up here. It's psychological. You take medicine, you feel like, then all of a sudden you feel great, okay? And they're really not. And so when people think they take medicine, they feel better, even though they're not taking it. Make sense? So, 4 ways to collect data. So when you guys do your project, am I going to put you in harm's way? Are you going to have to do a simulation? No. Are you going to do an experiment? No. So when you collect your data for your project, you will either do a census or a sample based off of that. Okay? Let me read you some more scenarios, and I'll just read them out of my book here. Okay? All right. How about, never mind, this is out of another book. I got it. Just a minute. I got my other book somewhere. Here's our old book from a long time ago. Okay. Tell me what you think this would be. The study of the effect of aspirin on preventing heart attacks. A what? Experiment. That would be an experiment, right? You're doing medicines, trying to see if it works. The study of the effect of changing flight patterns on the number of airplane accidents. Probably a simulation, right? You're not going to tell a plane that's flying, hey, we're going to change your flight pattern. Oh, let's see what happens. Okay, and they run into a mountain or something. Okay, so you would do that as a simulation. Okay, the study of the weights of all linemen in the NFL. And what was the key to that? All linemen. Okay, so that's a census. Okay, the study of U.S. residents' approval rating of the U.S. president. Let me ask you this. So if you're doing a study of adults of the U.S. president, that means you're surveying every adult. Is that practical? So you would do that as a sample, right? You'd maybe survey 1,000 adults. Okay. The study of the effect of exercise on senior citizens. Probably a simulation, right? The study of the effect of radiation fallout on senior citizens. Probably a simulation too, right? Okay, you're not going to radiate a whole bunch of old folks and say, "Yeah, that was a bad idea." They all died. Okay. All right. Any questions on how to collect data? This is data collection. Okay. Here's our last thing. Our last thing is Can I erase this?
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it over here. Okay. All right, our last one is sampling techniques. There are 5 of them, okay? When you guys do your project, you have to pick 4 of them, okay? So in other words, you pretty much have to know every one of them, because I want you to do every town in your survey a different method. And some towns are perfect, okay? And some towns you have to kind of think about it a little bit. So here's how you approach your project. You decide how you're going to collect your data. Are you going to do a census or a sample? A census or a sample. If your town has more than 10 gas stations, you will do a sample. If your gas station has less than 10, you will do a census. Pretty simple, right? These two don't fall into play when we're doing our project. Okay? The first one that we're going to do, or the first one that you do, is simple random. Simple random. Okay? And here's what I mean by that. Is a sample in which every possible sample has a equal chance of being selected. Okay? Here's the best way I can think about that. I put all your names in a hat. All your names are in a hat, and I got to select 5 of you. Does everybody have an equal chance of being selected? Yes. I look in the hat and I pull it out, I'm Kyle Miller. Okay? So everybody has an equal chance of being selected. So let's say you have a town and you have 15 gas stations. You only want 10 of them. Okay? Well, don't pick the first 10 that you see, because that's bias. You're being lazy. You're just picking the first 10 that's easy for you. So I would just put all 15 gas stations in a hat, and I would just pull out 10 of them. And there's my 10 gas stations. That's a simple random. Okay? Randomly calling people. We all, maybe you guys don't, but all those people always calling you, those are random number generators. They're just randomly getting phone numbers and they're calling people. Okay, that's simple random. Everybody's got an equal shot at being selected. This is a really good method to use. Now, if you have 100 gas stations, do you want to label 100 pieces of paper and put them in a hat and select 10? No, I would do simple random. If I had like 15 gas stations, 14, I would just randomly select them. Some people will just do 1 through 14 and just do a number generator on their phone. And they'll just say, boom, number 12, boom, number 10, boom, number 2. That's simple random. You just randomly select it. Okay? Good one. This is a good one. Number 2. Next one, wait, it says 3. Oh. No, I'm good. I remembered. I combined them. Here we go. Stratified. Stratified. Okay? Here's what stratified is. What you do is you break up into groups and select some from each group. This is out of all the surveys, if I had to do this, I would probably pick 2. I would pick stratified. I think it's a great technique. Thanks. Okay. Here's a good way to do it. How can Post Falls High School be broken up into groups? By classes, right? If I took Post Falls High School and I broke it up into 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, okay? Stratified means you break them up by groups, which I just did. And then it says you select some from each group. Maybe I survey 10 of those, 10 of those, 10 of those, and 10 of those. That's stratified. I break it up into groups and I select some from every group.
Does it have to be the same number from each?
Doesn't have to be the same number. Because, let me pertain to your project. How can Post Falls, Idaho be broken up into quadrants? How could I take Post Falls and break it up? What is that big road that runs right down here? The freeway, which is I-90. So I-90 goes through Post Falls, right? What street goes north and south? A main one.
Oh, 41.
Highway 41. Didn't I just break up Post Falls into categories? Well, you're going to go to Google Maps and you're going to type in Post Falls gas stations and you're going to start to see all these dots pop up, okay, where gas stations are in Post Falls, okay? Well, I can't pick equal amounts in both. What section, 1, 2, 3, or 4, would you want to probably pick the most? 4, because that's where the majority are. Maybe you're going to randomly select 4 of them. Over here, maybe you don't want to select all of them. Maybe you'll just select one of those. Maybe here 2. What's that? 4, 5, 6, 7. And then here you'll pick 3. Okay? You did a stratified technique. You broke it up into sections and you picked some out of each. That's stratified. This is a great technique because I feel it represents everything. I think is there a chance if I did this by simple random that I only surveyed seniors only and I didn't get to survey anybody else? Okay? This way it guarantees that I get to survey everybody. Okay? Stratified. Good method. Okay, number 3, cluster. It's exactly the same as stratified. Break up into groups, but you only select some of the groups. So I break it up into groups, exactly like stratified, and then I select some of the groups. Here's what I mean. Back to Post Falls High School. Let's say I want to do a survey on the 4-day school week. I broke it up into groups, but I don't really want to survey seniors because they're not going to be here next year. They don't really pertain to my survey. So maybe I would survey 10 of these, 10 of those, and 10 of those. But I wouldn't survey the seniors because you're not going to be here, so you don't care. Okay, so there you go. That's cluster. How would it work with this? Let's say that this quadrant didn't have any gas stations. There just was no gas stations in this quadrant. This would now become a cluster because you didn't select anything out of here. Good? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, number 4, systematic. Here you just select at a regular interval. You just select at a regular interval. So let's say I want to survey Post Falls High School students. I stand on the front door and I survey every 10th person that walks in the door. I just select a number to stick with every 10th person and I ask them a question. Okay? So this would be like every 10th person. Every second person. Okay?
So hard in this class now.
I thought you were already.
I was in 5th, but now I'm in 3rd.
Oh, all right. I see there.
So would it be like every 10th person?
Yeah, exactly. So if I was, maybe I'm standing on a corner and I want to see people that are wearing their seatbelts. And I would just survey every 10th car, like, yep, nope, 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 you know, and I could just say that. Good? When do you think this would be a good one for your project? When would you want to do a systematic approach? How many gas stations are in Spokane, Washington, you think? A lot, like a couple hundred maybe? Well, I don't want to, I don't want to do a simple random. I could possibly do stratified. The bigger the thing, I do systematic. Like maybe I'll survey every 10th gas station on my list. And the reason why you don't want to pick top 10, because when you get a list of gas stations, how do you think the prices are? Do you just think they're random, or do you think they go least to expensive, expensive to least. Most of the time, lists are least to most expensive. Well, if you pick the first 10, you're being biased because you're picking the 10 cheapest gas stations. But if I have 200 gas stations and I pick every 20th gas station on my list, I'm getting an equal representation of all the gas stations. Make sense? Got to kind of think about things. You just don't willy-nilly pick 10. There's a reason why you pick things. Because what you're doing is you're eliminating bias. And if you're just saying, well, I just picked the first 10, that's our last one, which is convenience. If you do convenience, when it comes to your project, I don't even look at it. It's garbage. It's biased. In other words, you just were so lazy that you didn't have a method to collect your data. That data means absolutely nothing. It's just all biased data. Okay? So when I say bias, when I say convenience, I don't know, I don't even know really how to explain it. You're just being lazy. You select the first, shoot, how am I going to say this? You select the first, or how about you select the easiest? Easiest, sure, options works. Okay? And I've had people do this. I don't understand it. Like, for Post Falls, Idaho, I was running out of time, so I just selected the first 10 that I saw. I'm like, are you crazy? Because you just got a 0 for that town. Because it's biased, it's lazy, you're being convenient. It'd be like you doing a survey and you just survey the people next to you. Hey, what do you think about this? You know, you don't take into consideration all the other students and so forth, okay? Never ever do a survey of convenience, because that's bad. It's all biased. It's really garbage. Okay? So, see how you have 4 choices? Okay, you can kind of pick your choices when you guys do your project. Let me read off some things. Tell me what you think, and then we're done. You divide the student population with respect to majors, and randomly select and question some students in each major. Stratified. Broke it up into majors, selected some from each major. You assign each student a number and generate random numbers. Then you question each student whose number is randomly selected. Simple random. Okay? So I give everybody, all of you guys get a number, and I just randomly select some. You select students who are in your statistics class.
Convenience.
Probably convenience, right? You assign each student a number. After choosing a starting number, you question every 25th student. Systematic. You select a class at random and question each student in the class. Probably stratified. I selected a class at random and then question each, no wait, not stratified. I would think it's a cluster because I only selected one class, and there's a lot more classes out there, and so I only selected one class and I questioned them. So that would be a cluster. We good? Mm-hmm. Not bad stuff. I know that I've said the word biased a few times, but I haven't really talked about it. There's a couple questions on your worksheet today. I'll give you a hint on how to approach it. Again, bias means that you're asking a leading question. Like, for instance, I might ask you, how do you feel about or I put a survey in a gun magazine, and I ask, how do you feel about the laws protecting guns' rights? Well, isn't that probably a biased question? Because if you're looking in a gun magazine, you're for guns, right? And how do you feel about it? I'm going to get the response that I want. You're probably going to say, it's my right to have a gun, right? Or you're probably not going to say, I don't think guns are needed. The guns are not necessary, okay? So if I put my survey in a gun magazine, naturally it's a leading question. I'm trying to get the answers that I want. Okay, that's what I mean by bias. And we'll talk more about it as it approaches. All right, so I got a worksheet for you guys. This is just, I just copied it right out of our other book. And I think there's probably room that you can do your work right on here. You can just put your answers, because I'm not going to have you explain everything again. Okay. So this wraps up the chapter. Kind of gave you a little idea of how we're going to approach our project. We'll definitely talk about it a lot more down the road. We got a good one? We good? Oh. All right. Hey, this, even though this is from a different textbook, guess what? They kind of do the same thing, exactly the same. On 1, 2, 4, there's your true false again. Okay? If it's false, there's probably room off to the side right here. You could write your answer out if it's false. Okay? On number 5 through 8, data collection. Tell me this. You don't have to explain your answers again. Don't explain your answers. Just say, I think that's a sample. I think that's simulation. Okay? Now, on 9 through 18, all I want you to do is tell me what sampling technique. They talk about bias. You don't have to explain any of the bias there. Just say, I think that is stratified. That's it. One-word answers. Okay? 19 and 20 is bias questions. Tell me if you think 19 is biased. Okay? Determine whether the survey question is biased. If it is, suggest better wording. So 19, why is drinking fruit juice good for you? Is that biased?
Yes.
Why?
Because it's suggesting that it's good for you.
Yeah. Is it giving me the chance to say, hey, I don't think it is good for you? Okay? You know, some fruit, just because it says fruit juice doesn't mean it's good for you. How could you reword it so it's not?
You could take out the why.
And put what? And just take out why, correct?
Yeah.
Is drinking fruit juice good for you? Doesn't that leave that open-ended now? And I could do either one, okay? So I'll just put it up here. I want you to do 1 through 18, or actually 1 through 20. And then look at 23 and 24. They kind of explain the questions there. They talk about open-ended and closed-ended questions. And then they just have you do an answer A and B. That's it. That wraps up the chapter. So I'll think about something for tomorrow, even though it would normally be a review day, but we'll do something else, and then we'll review on Monday. Let me check out the case study, see if it's a good one. Maybe.
Sirius XM, Sirius XM, Sirius
It's off. Is he ruining the song? Oh wait, I think I got some notes.
I don't know, but like, they're both pretty fast. He's not here. I mean,
This one was a counselor.
I need to figure out why did I supposed to, how do I I said, okay, so I asked him if he drank some money. And he's like, oh, I figured out what's wrong. I said, thank you, it's not very nice. And then I was like, that's what I got paid for. I said, so I don't know how I got paid for tickets. And I was like, also, do you want to buy a ticket for me tonight? Because they were saying, he doesn't know, yes, I'll buy tickets for you tonight. So, you know, we figured out why there's an extra $100. It's like, I think I'm just going to use it for chips. It's not
Or-
just ready to solve it. Yeah. Me too. I mean, there's not a lot of space, so yeah. I yeah. So no, I'm just gonna spend it because I need to save it for my tickets. And then I'm gonna need more tickets because I'm gonna need a doctor. But it would be lovely if we had a doctor at home, a good call. That would tell me
Forgot to shut off the recording.
It's so bad. Were you my car this week? It's so bad. It's so bad. I look over and Kyle was like, why can't you go to yeah, I got home. I got back